In the previous video of this series, we looked at the for loop. This video we will look at a different type of loop, known as the while loop. What's the difference, you ask? A for loop is known as definite iteration because it has a set start and end. A while loop is known as indefinite iteration because it could loop forever under the right conditions. Let's start by looking at some examples. The code on screen starts off by asking the user to enter a positive number. In a real program, we could be asking for the user to input their age or address. Obviously, we don't want them to put in bad data, so we can use the condition of the while loop in the brackets to check the value of the user input variable. In this example, I have coded, while user input is less than 0, then repeat these 3 lines of code. If I run this code, you can see that when I input a condition that is true, a negative number, it will repeat the 3 lines of code. If I make the condition false by putting in a positive number, the loop will end. It is very important to put a second user input inside the while loop or we'll get an infinite loop, like so. And we certainly don't want that. What you are seeing here is known as an infinite loop. What happened was, I removed the line of code that allowed for the user input, meaning that when the condition evaluated to true by inputting a negative number, it ran line 18, then 19, then went back to check the condition again. However, because we no longer can change the user input on line 20, the condition can never change, and it will repeat those 3 lines of code forever. This is easy to spot if you have an output like we've already seen. However, with no outputs, it could appear that your program has frozen. An example on screen shows a while loop that could easily freeze your program if you don't look at it carefully. Can you spot why this will end in an infinite loop? If you said that this variable will decrease instead of increase, meaning that the condition will never reach the value of 10 to stop the loop, then you are correct. Let's look at another example. This code will do almost the exact same thing as the previous example, except this time we will check the condition of the user input after we have done the code. Meaning the difference is, in the first example, the code may never run, but in this example, the code will run at least once. Let's look at another example. In this example, we are not checking against an integer, we are checking against the exact value of a string. However, we have used an exclamation mark in our condition, which means not equal to. So this statement reads, while the password variable does not equal to the value password, keep repeating. Let's look at how we can use a while loop to do what a for loop does. You'll notice that this does the exact same thing as the first example in the for loop video, which you'll find linked in the description, of course. The condition reads, while counter is less than or equal to 10, keep looping. The main difference is that we created the counter variable before the while loop and we've had to increase the value of the counter inside the for loop ourselves, instead of the loop doing this automatically for us. This is done by writing counter ++ as shown here. If we remove the ++ line, can you guess what would happen if we run the code? If you guessed that we would get stuck in an infinite loop, you'd be correct. Now let's try some of the on-screen challenges. If you can do all 4 of them without help, then let me know in the comments. If you would like to see step-by-step answers to these challenges, there will be a follow-on video which I will pin in the comments. If you learned something new from this video, or enjoyed it otherwise, please give this video a like and tap that subscribe button for more coding videos.